All right, looks like we are at, excuse me, 6:58. Oh, give it about 4 more minutes till we hit 7:02. And start making some plans for the upcoming election. Boy, that first 2 minutes was a long 2 minutes. So 2 more minutes to go till 7:02. And then we'll get things rolling for tonight. And okay, there we go. Clock just clicked 7:02. So let's get things kicked off for the South Carolina NORML cannabis conversation for this evening. My name's Scott. Yep, I guess I'll start like that. My name's Scott Weldon, Executive Director of the South Carolina chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. I'd like to start by welcoming everybody who's on the call with me, welcoming anybody who may be watching this live on YouTube, and also welcome anybody who might be watching this as a recording on YouTube. When I do mention YouTube, I always like to mention that we are not monitoring the comment section on the YouTube live stream. But But if you do have any questions, comments, and or concerns, and you're viewing on YouTube, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section off to the side, wherever your device leaves them. And after YouTube is done rendering the video, usually 24 hours, we will visit the comment section and see if we can address your questions, comments, and or concerns. With that, I'd also like to start with our disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All right, get that out of my way. And again, welcome everybody to the call this evening, to the Zoom this evening. Our topic that I shared out earlier today is going to be pretty much the Smoke the Vote voter guide for the upcoming November election, and also our candidate questionnaire for that. Over the past couple of weeks, I may have mentioned that the voter guide should go live for the public starting right around Labor Day, early September. But at the moment, let me get the right share on here. At the moment, if somebody goes to vote.normal.org, which is where the Smoke the Vote guide is, and they go to South Carolina, you'll see down here, all they're going to see currently is your elected officials. Under the heading of upcoming election, you'll see there is no information at this time. Like I say, that information will go live to the public right around Labor Day. I'm guessing about the 8th of September. On the other hand, if you go in through my administrative lead, this is what I see. It's not just who the incumbents are sitting in our state right now. This is the candidates that are lined up for the November 8th election this year. Election day will fall on November 8th. And you can see, as you've seen in the other Smoke the Vote guys, we have some where question marks. We have absolutely no idea who they are, what grade they might have. All of their information is kind of grayed out. Jokey Beckett. I actually a couple of times have tried to search Google and find out who this is and you know, their position in the race. Also, at this time, there are no parties listed for the generals. The parties are not listed. They would have been listed during the primaries, are not listed during the generals on our guide at this point in time. So I just found this out this past week that I now have admin access on this back panel, on this back side, so that I can go in and I can start updating some of the candidates that answered our candidate questionnaire either late last season or just before the primaries, and I missed them because I kind of got sidetracked that last week or two before the primaries on updating the guide. So I know there are a few. Good example is House District 1, Annie Andrews. Actually, she's got a good grade just from comments she's made in her campaign. But we will then soon have her actual comments filled out and linked before this goes live, like I say, around Labor Day. Also, I don't remember the candidate's name. Let's go ahead and look under our responses here. For some reason, I think it might be Duncan. Answered our survey, and apparently we have not updated his info by the primaries, or at least at this point. And again, it's not live for the public to see. So we'll be getting all those responses so far updated. Of course, we do want to start pushing the questionnaire again shortly. Doesn't hurt to start even pushing it now, because when the public goes in to the Smoke the Vote guide now, there is still the button where they can click the know this politician's position on marijuana, tell us, and they can click that button. Again, here, Pamela Evett, she is our lieutenant governor. If you happen to know their position, or you check off the applicable statements, you can rate them if you wanted to, but we actually follow certain rubrics on how we rate the candidates. And then here, which is very important, the sources and additional info. Important portion there, the sources. We do need reliable sources on that, links to videoed interviews, to newspaper articles, to their campaign page if it happens to mention their marijuana policy and position, those type of things. So that if you as a person of the general public come on into the Smoke the Vote guide and you see some of these that have absolutely no grading at whatsoever, and you say, hey, hold it, that's my legislator. I happen to know a little bit about them, and I have some links that I can share with you. This is the place and time to do that kind of stuff now. Now through actually the generals. We are midterm elections this November, midterm meeting. There's still 2 more years on this presidency. There's been a lot of discussion on these generals, on these elections, flipping the House or the Senate. We will see what comes of the election. And as you all know, I'm pretty much an issue voter. I vote on the cannabis issue. So I'm more concerned about who's really against cannabis, so I don't accidentally vote for them. But as you can see, we are starting to get a fair number of greens in here. And let me go back to my version of the guide. And you'll see in some of these districts, good example, our Attorney General, in the primaries, there was a challenger on the Republican ticket for Alan Wilson. Obviously, if you've been following at all, you know Alan Wilson is not a friend of cannabis. His challenger, I wouldn't say was a whole lot better, but he won his primary. So and there is no challenger from the opposing party. So that's a good example of, one that's, the votes don't matter at this point. He's got no challenger. But then again, you have the House 1, 2, 3 names for House District 1. I happen to live in District 1. Actually, I fibbed. There's a 4th name down here. I don't know who these 2 names are. I've got to look into them. But again, important race in a couple of respects. One, it's important to me personally because I live in this district. Secondly, Nancy is, sponsored a very strong descheduling bill at the federal level. So to me, it's definitely a race of interest. You can see in the next race down, House District 2, and I'm not going to go all through all of them. But Joe Wilson, again, one of our House reps, along with Jeff Duncan, you'll see right down below there. I don't see either of them signing on to Nancy's bill. As I keep scrolling down, I keep seeing more names there. There are 7 other seats for House at the federal level. And like I say, they are all, I don't know who we're losing. They are all the same party as Nancy. And I haven't seen a single one of them kind of raise their hand and say, I will sign on and co-sponsor your descheduling bill. Would I love to see that happen? Oh, absolutely. I would love to see that happen. But again, so there's an example of I guess we'll call it an issues vote on that House District 2, which I believe that's up around Columbia. You know, you've got Joe Wilson, who's basically a D- to this young Judd Larkins, who is an A as far as legalization, decriminalization, descheduling, medical use, that kind of stuff. So then there are all the grays. And that's where we really want to kind of push as we're moving into the election, this part of the election cycle. Sorry, as I move some stuff around, is to again try and get our candidate questionnaire back out there for this portion of the election cycle and get the answers for the voters if the voters want to know. You know, where does my legislator, where does my candidate's options stand on cannabis? I was pretty happy. If you note here, we did get 24 responses. I will say that I know at least one of those. Oh, I just realized some chats I gotta go look at. One of those was for a 2024 election, won't be on this cycle. And one was for municipal level, which again, the smoke the vote guide does not cover. So let me go ahead and see what's happening in chat here. So yeah, valid question. I really don't know. That's always kind of asked around election time. It was mentioned that, you know, it would happen last cycle. Oh, that president's going to go ahead and just deschedule. He's been very reluctant. He's been, as far as I can see, Biden has been very reluctant to address descheduling in any way, shape, or form. He kind of talks about rescheduling to, you know, like Schedule 3, I think it was, or something like that. And that really just doesn't fix any of the problems. It still makes it, you know, a crime for simple possession, that kind of stuff. And so, yeah. And of course, Kamala Harris, who was probably more pro-vocal during the campaign, and had maybe even swayed Biden a little bit in his position. She has been mysteriously quiet as well over the past year and a half on cannabis. Oh. All right, let me go ahead and close up this sharing here. But yeah, this actually just kind of came on me this past week. I didn't realize I would have access to the back end quite this quickly. Although now that I am looking at the calendar, we are 1 month away from that Labor Day 2-month out cycle with the Smoke the Vote software. That is a third-party software. It's not something we operate and run here. So we are like given access at certain times. Certain things are available to us at certain times, certain things then are not. As they go and re-update after the primaries into the generals. And like I say, it was since our last conversation here that I found I do have admin access again, and that we are 1 month or so away from the public being able to view it. Let me just go and look here. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm not sure if this is the same short link as before, but it gives me different short links. Here is in the chat a link to the candidate questionnaire. You can kind of copy that and save it if you want to the side to send off to your candidates in your area that are coming up in the Novembers, if you happen to have any that you do not know their position. You can also reach out to us and ask us to send them the candidate questionnaire. I don't know if that has any more pull or not to get them to respond. But I want the candidates to know that marijuana is a question that is on the top of a lot of voters' minds for a number of different reasons. We all know that, you know, the question's there for medical reasons. There's a question there, a lot of us for, again, our organization is predominantly a civil rights, civil liberties organization. We don't believe anybody should be going to jail for cannabis. You know, so there are the veterans groups out there that, you know, again, we agree with. I am not as well versed at some of the legislation that affects vets and cannabis, but that's definitely a part of the fight. So a lot of different reasons on why we are doing that. So the elections are important. I say that and then I hesitant as a Frank Zappa fan. If you've ever listened to Frank, you know, basically he feels politics is just sort of the entertainment division of the military industrial complex. So take it with a grain of salt as you will. All right, let me go ahead and close that form up before I get sidetracked. All right, it's still kind of early, I see. It's only about 20 after 7. Does anybody have any questions or comments right now about the Smoke the Vote guide and or the candidate questionnaire? Any suggestions on how to kind of get it spread out, get it implemented? I pretty much went during the primaries, and again, there's a lot more candidates on the tickets during the primaries. Kind of just started going down the line saying, hey, as we're, you know, just weeks away from the elections, the candidate, the voters want to know, what's your position on marijuana? Please answer our questionnaire and include the link. I don't know if I really put much more than that in there. Depending on how I try and contact them, because like I say, some of these seem to be very difficult. That I'll take that first name again on the list, Jokey Beckett. There is somebody on Facebook, but there's really nothing that mentions their political campaign. It's not it's a personal page. It's not a campaign page. I can't really seem to find anything else on Google about their campaign. Unfortunately, we can't give them any mark if they don't answer. And I think a no answer can be viewed by some as a negative. But unfortunately, without corroborating links, we can't give them a mark. Yeah, we do need verification of that position and things like that. We can't kind of go making up stories. A good matter, though, I mean, and this is something I haven't done. I don't see myself kind of doing it, but if we could go through the list of everybody who kind of obstructed the medical bill in South Carolina, that's running for office, and that has to be a House member, none of the Senate members, and they voted against it, that is enough of a reference that we can put them in as voting against, and then we can give them a D. We can't actually give them an F unless they've sponsored anti-marijuana legislation. So that's kind of the way our rubric is set up. But yeah, they could get a D minus, but definitely a negative kind of mark when it comes to the cannabis issue. I'm not sure if I'm too wishful thinking that people care enough about this that it would make a difference in an election. But just the fact that I've had more candidates answer during the last primary than I have in previous times, and I have only done this a couple of times with getting the candidate questionnaires out there. I think this is just the third go around of it, maybe at best. But since we have a gubernatorial candidate who's come out for, full legalization in South Carolina for medical, for decrim, for recreational use, against our incumbent governor, who, still feels there should be no medical and jail time for people who possess cannabis, to actually, I fib. There are two candidates for governor that are pro-legalization, pro-decriminalization, and pro-medical use, that I have got, that we've seen as far as responses go. Then a couple of grays. So like I said earlier, if there is no response, that can tend to reflect as a negative to the voter. I would think, and but yeah, we are starting to fill in our list compared to what we have had in some past elections. So now with 4-ish weeks countdown to Labor Day, I guess we'll call it about 5 weeks from here, something like that. Like I say, till access to the public opens up on I Smoke the Vote. And I know that this has really kind of impressed me. I was surprised by it. We had some of the candidates that were excited to answer our questionnaire and to see the update of their profile on our Smoke the Vote guide. And then I'd see them tweeting about it. Hey, I just got an A from South Carolina NORML and the Smoke the Vote guide. So that was kind of cool. Matter of fact, there was one where apparently some of the information on that candidate was still in there and reflected from a previous campaign. And again, we asked for references, and so this particular had a reference and a link to an old campaign website that was still live. And apparently he came and visited the Smoke the Vote guide after filling out his candidate questionnaire, kind of, you know, for the most recent primaries. And before I saw the questionnaire answers, came and saw the responses from the previous election, failing to actually follow the link to the verifications of them, and then started sending us a couple of emails, like, or messages, I forget which it was. Hey, that's wrong information on there. That's not accurate information. And I try and stay on top of these things pretty much during election time. Went and looked at what he was talking about, and it's right. It was old information, but I did follow the link to his old campaign site, and it was accurate for at that time. His new campaign site addressed it differently, was able to get a better grade. I think they got into the B range. But it was kind of interesting because during the messaging back and forth, they could see the updates almost live, like pretty quickly. I'd go and finish, hit the complete button, whatever I'd have to do, and they'd refresh their browser, and boom, you know that. Oh, and could you change this? Yep, I can do that. And so it's pretty interesting to try and keep up with. We do have of course, governor's race this year. Attorney General's not going to really mean much. There are U.S. House district races throughout the state. And then, of course, there's the Senate House races. And again, those are throughout the state. First couple I'm looking at, it's like incumbent, unchallenged, incumbent, unchallenged, incumbent, unchallenged, incumbent, unchallenged. Oh, on the first four anyway, incumbent, unchallenged. There's a challenger on the 5th district. One candidate in the 6th district, but it's not an incumbent, and so on. Again, these will be coming live in about a month. I'm hoping to, in that amount of time, get more of this stuff updated. And see how it sways South Carolina elections. I don't know. I really don't know yet. And maybe some of you can sort of give me your thoughts. I don't know yet if marijuana is an important enough issue to the people of South Carolina to have a lot of effect on the elections. I think a lot of South Carolinians are sort of steadfast in party views. And I don't want to blanket the whole state because I've met what would you call them? Varying party members, Green Party members, Libertarian Party members. So it's not always a blue and red state. You know, there are variations in there. And as we've talked about on this Zoom many a times, it is a nonpartisan issue as far as the voters are concerned. When it comes to polling of the voters, what was the numbers I heard the other day? Federal level was like 91% for at least medical. It was in the 80s, I think 82 or 80 some percent for adult use. The numbers were up there, and those were again nonpartisan polls for the most part. If I'm quoting correctly, and don't hold me to it, because I don't know what poll it was from exactly. But across all the parties, most of them are for some cannabis reform, law reform. And it's interesting to see how South Carolina as a state, it seems to be polarized by party. When we look at, and I'm going to try and do this because as I mentioned, the admin side now coming up into the new election is not telling me what someone's party is. Many of them I may or may not know as I go through. It's easy enough to find out. But I was surprised at the last primary, this most recent primary, that there were some, I'm going to say some because I know at least one Republican candidate did support legalization. It was sort of an interesting position because they supported medical, they supported legalization, they didn't support decrim. And I don't know, I was a little misunderstanding of that, but anyway, they did not win their race, unfortunately, because I think that was a better position than what many of the candidates have. But more and more, as we look through our smoke the vote guide, more and more are showing green. What I'll be needing to do over the next couple of weeks is starting to prep by going through this list, seeing who there's actual challengers for. I don't know why that word is so challenging for me. So the challengers for certain races. Reason being, that really doesn't make any sense to go ahead and reach out to candidates for races that have no challenger. It's not going to affect the outcome, what their answer is or isn't. So what we're hoping to do at least is to focus in on, or what I'm hoping to, is to focus in on those other, on the district where there is challengers. Because let me just scroll down and make sure there should be 128. Oh, I lie, 124 House races, give or take. I don't know if they're all listed, but there should be. U.S. Senate race with Tim Scott and Crystal Matthews. There is, again, those governor races, a couple of federal level House district races. And in some of them, they're challengers. So like I say, wherever there's challengers, those are the ones that are going to become more important to us to try and get answers from those particular candidates. Maybe at some point down the line, as we get closer to the election, we'll get some of those challengers back on the call. As you know, we've had Joe Cunningham was on, I want to say a year ago or so, last July, I believe it was. When he first announced. Nancy, again, doesn't lives right in my district here, so maybe she joined the call. And again, it doesn't matter where they're from to join the call here. But we'll see what comes of it. Any questions, thoughts, or comments on preliminary setup here? I do see a comment here. I haven't heard much on that yet, Josh. Is that was that military funding bill, I want to see the NADD or something like that. I got too many notes strewn around on my desk here. NDAA, the defense bill. I thought I heard some talk about that, but I don't have any answers for you at this time. Yeah, that's the one where they were trying to include some safe banking. I don't know why there were notes says the America Competes Act. There was also veteran protections, home loans, employment protections. I'm guessing that was the one we're talking about, that House bill. I'm hoping. Now, the Senate would then take action. My understanding is coming in September on that. Okay. I'm going to check one more time. We are 20 of 8. I'm going to go ahead and shift away from the Smoke the Vote guide and the questionnaire. I think we're all kind of pretty clear on that. And those on the call with me that have been with me for a while in these calls know that we're going to start talking about that a little bit more as we move on over the next 3 months till we hit the election with it again, is just pushing to get those out. In the meantime, I do not have this written down anywhere, but I forget when we originally talked about it. Anyway, we were talking about a farm visit that did not kind of happen. So we've been starting to think about what other things that we can kind of do for in-person public kind of event stuff. And my board has cautioned me to be very careful about any kind of spending and that kind of thing, because we don't have money to spend. And we are working on trying to reach out to some new volunteers and guidance and hopefully new board membership, at least for one, to kind of replace one we're losing. But with that said, we have picked a first date for an event somewhere. Nothing really major. It is just going to be setting up our booth for the most part, a little tent down at Marion Square on August 27th, Saturday, the 27th. Haven't nailed down the time yet, but I believe we're going to be there and setting up basically at 8 o'clock in the morning. And probably be there till I think roughly 1 or 2 o'clock. We will have some free marijuana information to pass out. We will probably also have whatever other, a lot of our other kind of merch and stuff like that, gift for donation things. I do want to try and keep it like a little bit light and limber, just because I don't know if we are going to get any kind of confrontation or not. We have applied to a farmer's market that goes on down at that park during those approximate hours on Saturdays or most Saturdays. I'm not aware of any other event on that day, but that park is sometimes roped off for certain events. A good example would be the Cooper River Bridge Run. Ends just down the street from the park, and then the park is basically the spot where a lot of the vendors and refreshments and music and you know, loved ones meet their oh, lost Joey. But anyway, so it does kind of get roped off for that, and I don't want to say roped off where it is private. It because I was down there one year with like some signs and handing out stuff and you know, leaning by a tree. I wasn't there with a tent or anything. So I do want to double check that date for that reason, but I don't think that's going to be an issue in August. I don't believe. Joey asked in the chat what happened to meeting at the farm. I got a last minute call. I don't want to say quite last minute. It was about 2.5 hours or so before our meeting last week, from the farmer saying he's got to cancel, and he'll get back to me at another time. And Josh is saying Shane is extremely busy. So yeah, I don't know exactly what motivated it, considering you seemed pretty excited about it a few days before. But again, sometimes you may turn around and go, oh, hold it, I got a lot on my plate here. So I can understand that. Excuse me, I'm getting parched here. But that doesn't stop my desire to try and get us out there. So mark your calendars if you're in the Charleston area, for August 27th. That's just a couple of weeks out. 1, 2, 3 weeks plus a couple of days, for a kind of early morning. I'm going to call it 8 o'clock to 1. Information handout down at Marion Square in Charleston. Second thing I was thinking I'd like to do, I planned this a couple of years back. And when I say a couple of years back, that probably puts us in, you know, the year 2000. I was trying to, I think, long plan, maybe it was maybe, yeah, that must have been 2000. Might have been early in the season or something. And I was thinking, hey, we'll do an early season like beach day. But set up at the beach. Of course, wind is always a factor down there with anything. So setting up some of our information racks, you know, things like that will have to be creative so that things just don't blow down the beach and litter everything. But I think we should be able to get our 10 by 10 popped up, at least part way up, you know, kind of keep it low, keep a low profile. Hopefully hang our banners on the sides so people can see it. My thought a couple of years back was to make sure that we have at least, you know, bottled water and maybe some soft drinks on hand for folks. And then if they want to bring a sandwich or something along with them, a little picnic kind of thing, they're welcome to do so. Beware of seagulls. But I was kind of thinking day of the beach. I did have my calendar out for that, and I do not have my schedule for next month, for September yet. But I was almost thinking, because we have Labor Day on the 5th, it is, if I remember correctly, I was looking early in the month, sometime right after Labor Day, when it's more officially the end of season. Saturday the 10th, Sunday the 11th, one of those 2 days. I would have to know a little bit in advance who, you know, if we do this, just to make sure I schedule my time appropriately with my part-time job. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking that. And then the other thing is maybe lost Joey again, a picnic. There are picnic tables and grills. I think you have to bring your own charcoal and stuff like that. At the James Island Park where I work, there's no charge for those particular, the picnic area grills. It's not like we would be, reserving a shelter or anything. Again, we're going to kind of keep it real low key, low profile. Just kind of come hang out at some picnic tables. There is the big meadow nearby, or if anybody who wants to play any kind of games like Frisbee or, take their dog for a walk out in the meadow or around, because dogs are welcome in the park, must be on leash unless they're in the dog park. But I thought it would be, I think I tried it once, and I'm not sure exactly when that was. And again, it ended up being that my wife and I took our bicycles with us, parked and hung out for a little while, hoping to see if anybody would show up and turn out. No one did, so we took our bikes for a ride on the path. Left a note on my vehicle at the meeting area. Said, just on a quick bike ride. We'll be right back. Nobody ever did show up. So I don't know how popular an idea of a picnic would be. But those are my two initial thoughts. I know we were trying to talk with Josh earlier. I was trying to talk with Josh earlier about maybe putting together a larger-ish 420 related event. I just don't see us having the ability to do that without, like I said, without a proper structure of our organization with volunteer coordinators and event coordinators and all that fun stuff. Let me read what you're having in your comments, though. I see you have some comments there. I am always warned when, especially when we're talking with National, about using the word, I think it was raffle. And even with the state Secretary General, if you're doing raffles, you do have to do some sort of filing, let them know that you're doing a raffle. Small raffle, and I think that stems from people that like raffle things like a brand new truck or a freaking boat, or they're raffling high ticket items and maybe selling. I mean, I remember going by which boardwalk? I'm going to say the Atlantic City boardwalk, but it could have been somewhere along the beach. And there's this car on display, and people trying to hawk raffle tickets. Win this car. Win this car right here. How much is a raffle ticket? Yeah, and they probably somewhat substantial. It wasn't like dollar tickets or anything like that. I don't remember what they were. I don't know if they go for $20 or $50 or what they are. I really couldn't tell you. But basically, you've got to sell enough raffle tickets to at least pay for what it is you're giving away, and hopefully get some other funds in it's a fundraiser. They're fundraisers. And of course, with something like that, when you're talking big ticket items, our status right now is our filings are pretty easy. We don't have a lot of money that we process through our organization, but you start doing $100,000 cars or whatever it is that some of these are giving away. that probably takes a whole another accountant awareness, tax accountant awareness that we don't have available to us. My thought though is something similar to that, like if we could find folks that wanted to donate some cannabis related items, whether it's cannabis or reform or something like that, related items that we could put onto our online store on our website. We don't have a way to do it as a raffle through our website. I think there might be some third-party apps that I don't know enough about to attempt at this point. But just put it out there as an item for sale. Buy this item, support our organization. This was donated to us by, boom, and we put our promo for the donor, right there in the description, with probably a link to their website, something along those lines. I think we could do, because the other thing I was thinking when you bring that up, Josh, was doing almost like an online yard sale. If you would, we mark an item on our store as yard sale item, so they all sort of fall into the same category, and then we could put in almost anything into the yard sale that somebody wants to donate to us. One thing nice with the website post that we use is it's set up with the shopping cart. It does all the calculations for shipping and things like that. We can even set up like pickup options for people if they want to pick up an item, depending on how far away they are or something like that. Somebody might want to try that as an option. Chance to win with $5 donation, I'm not sure, because that to me is basically what those raffles are. You're making a donation for the ticket. So like those things I think are cool if we do them. We've done like small raffles at some of our meetings back when we were doing public meetings out in the public, in-person meetings out in the public. And matter of fact, I have a couple of rolls of raffle tickets somewhere around in our stuff, that we have done a couple raffles. Matter of fact, we used them this past 420. We didn't charge anything for the raffle tickets, but we handed them out amongst the patrons of the venue. I would have to either have somebody look into it further or something about an actual raffle, get your chance to win, whether it be a 50-50, something like that. Yeah, that would be something where, again, it goes to the Secretary of State. And it's just something I don't feel I got. I don't know. I've always been warned away from doing raffle type stuff. I don't know why, but again, maybe it's just my own ignorance on that. But that's why I always thought, well, the yard sale thing is not a raffle. They're just, and as I've even talked about it with our accountant, when we do almost anything on our website, we don't charge sales tax for it. We're not required to charge sales tax. It is a gift for donation. Everything that, somebody gets a book, they get a t-shirt, they get a pin, a button, a sticker. Those are to show our appreciation for the donation that they gave, and so, yeah, to get a button, your donation level's, $2 or $3, or to get the t-shirt, your donation level is $24. So that's kind of the way I like to address it, because we are a 501c4. As a matter of fact, I was just reading somewhere about vendor options for 501c3s. On Facebook, there's ways to like get donations at certain times a year, Giving Tuesday, but it doesn't work if you're trying to give to a 501c4, only a 501c3. Now we don't have a 501c3. So we run into some problems from that. And the other thing with the 501c4 is you make a donation to a C4, even though you get a receipt for your donation or something like that, you can't really use that as a tax in your tax deductions, because donations to C4s are not necessarily tax deductible. There are some rules that allow some of those donations to be tax deductible, but in general, they are not tax deductible. On the other side of that, and you have to kind of dig down into some of the tax law in this stuff to really kind of to understand it. But any donation that is offset by a item, by a gift or whatever. Well, I just see it turned 8 o'clock. You have to deduct the value of that gift from your claim on tax deduction on the 501c3 anyway. So if you do really follow the law, you need to, and most people probably don't. Oh, I made a $500 donation to, PBS, and they sent me this $10 something, or $50 something, and they sent me a tote bag. Do people delete the value of the tote bag from their tax deduction claim? Chances are not. But anyway, so we try and justify some of it as, hey, the government doesn't let us, but you get this great gift at value. We're not charging you. Oh, geez, I think they get a T-shirt like on some of those is $100 some or whatever of a donation, and you'll get a shirt. National, I hate to say it, kind of. You can buy a shirt, or you can get a free shirt for outrageously high donation. I don't know. We don't get those high donations, so I can't say. And our shirts are, I think, reasonably priced. So anyhow, guys, that's it for me. Keep an eye out. August 27th for Marion Square. I will get the other two dates. I'm going to say September and October for Beach Time and Picnic. If you do have any thoughts, comments on either of those, I don't have to run right away. I don't need to end this at 8 o'clock. We can chat about it now. You can throw it in the chat. You can mic on if you have any thoughts on a beach day and or a picnic. All right, well, I will try and pick two dates and get that information out relatively quickly. I will get the info for Marion Square up. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to try and get it up over the weekend, but I also have a pretty full schedule over the weekend. So I'll see how that goes. Otherwise, next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, we'll talk about marijuana in South Carolina. I don't have a topic again at the moment. Hopefully something happens exciting that I can send out a notification going, hey, tonight's topic is something exciting. But in the meantime, don't forget to kind of reach out to me if you need to through either the contact page on our website, or a lot of you know how to get a hold of me. Follow us on Facebook. That's where we do most of our posting. Also a little bit on Twitter and Instagram. But otherwise, that is it for me tonight, guys. I appreciate you for joining me. And we got elections coming up. Let's see what we can do to sway marijuana laws in South Carolina. We'll see you here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Thank you. Good night.